Okay guys, so getting to cut the drywall. So I told you before I was going to show you some tricks and tips. So I'm going to show you a couple ways that you can cut the drywall. You cut whatever way you prefer. I'm left-handed, okay? So if you're right-handed, you guys might have to do this whatever way you want to do it. So a couple tricks are, you have your utility knife and you have your tape measure, right? So let's just say you know that it's a foot. Well, what you can do is use it like chopsticks. Some tape measures have a little tab up here that will hold the blade. Mine does not. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use my thumb and I'm going to use my index. I'm going to use my index on the blade, and my thumb is going to push this part of the tape measure like that. I'm going to call it chopsticks, right? Okay. So let's just say that I knew that I had to do 12 inches off the top or 12 inches off the side. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my tape measure and find 12. Maybe a little bit more, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend it. Now I'm going to use my thumb as a guide and my finger as a guide, and I'm going to use a straight edge on either one side of the drywall to guide me. So I'm just going to show you, I'm not going to actually cut, I'm just going to show you what I mean. So I'm here at 12 inches on the end of the board. I'm going to take like a chopstick, hold it, and then you're going to cut down. That'll give you a straight line because I'm using this as my guide. That's one way to do it. Another way is if you need to do a vertical. Again, you take your chopstick, you take your 12-inch, you're gonna go on the top using this top now as your guide, okay? So what you can do is you can pull it across and you're gonna rip it across, right? So that's for rips, these are for cuts, okay? When you're going horizontal, you call it a rip. When you're going vertical, you call it a cut, okay? That's one way. Another way I've seen guys do it, I don't do it this way, whatever. They'll use their square. If it's only between 1 to 6 inches or whatever, depending on how big your square is, they can use this as a guide where they use the thing and they cut it, right? I guess you can do the same thing over here somehow, right? I don't use that method. That's not a method I use. Like I said, for small rips, where my arm span is long enough, you know, I'm comfortable doing ripping it, right? Another way is using the T-square. So the T-square, let's say you know where your mark is at, okay? We're gonna call it 24. Let's call it 4 foot, okay? So at 4 foot, we're gonna mark it. All right, mark it. Now you have two ways you can do this. You can either take your square, and your square sits right on top. The lip sits right on top of it. And it's just about maybe a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch off of the ground, so it's not completely hitting the ground. Now, you can either use your pencil and you can mark a line all the way down, all the way up. Or since you already have your mark, there's a little notch here too. There's a little notch right there. It's a little notch. So you put that little notch on your line, right? So you can either draw your line, okay? Or since you already know where it's at, you hold it down with your foot down on the bottom, you take your blade and you're gonna scribe it, okay? You can scribe it, so that's using this. There may be a way to use it for your rips. If there is, I don't know that way, okay? I don't know that way. The last way I wanna show you is by using a chalk mark, okay? So let's say you know that the sheet is going to be halfway up. You have to be at 24 inches, okay? 24 inches, okay? So I'm going to mark one side, 24 inches. I'm going to mark the other side. (24 inches), okay? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my chalk line. Doesn't matter what color you use. Give it a couple of hits. I'm more comfortable going this way, so it's whatever way you prefer. You put your tag on that line. You put your tag on this line. Pull it tight. You're going to give it 2 pinches. Okay? I don't know how good that's going to show up, but I have a line there, so that's the line that you cut on, okay? So there's no right or wrong way to cut the drywall per se. If you want to just use the tape measure and the blade, you want to use a square. You're gonna have to watch somebody else's video, some other creator, because I don't know how to use a square for that. If you want to use the T-square, if you want to use the chalk line, you know, it's your preference. There's no right or wrong way to do it. So let's do the measurements for this and get back into that video.